Greetings in Hotep. This is Asar Hotep with the Mokaversity Institute of Philosophy and Research, which is a virtual network of independent scholars of Africana studies based in Houston, Texas. In this video, we are going to discuss a few excerpts from my recent ebook titled The Passion of the Christ or Passion of Osiris, The Kongo Origins of the Jesus Myth, that was released back in February of 2011 on my website, www.asarmhotep.com. This publication was put together in response to a recent religious debate that I was involved in San Antonio, Texas at the Carver Library. At the time, I knew that a lot of the material that I was going to cover in the debate would be new to a lot of the attendees. So in response to that and my original research, I wanted to have a convenient location to review all of the data. Thus, The Passion of the Christ, The Passion of Osiris was the result of those proceedings. Because of the limitations in time for this video, we will not be able to cover everything in great detail. For that, you will have to review the text. What we will discuss in this first video is the name Osiris and Jesus as cognate terms, meaning they are the same word, and what is a Messiah and its Kongo context. The idea that there is a connection between Egypt's Osiris and the Hebrews' Jesus, better known as Yeshua, is not a new concept in this religious discourse. There have been many attempts by Christian believers to deny the connections brought up in previous works. And one of those reasons is that the Christians claim that the word Jesus and Osiris are not the same terms and they are not the same entity. In the book, I go through a thorough linguistic analysis to demonstrate that this indeed is not the case, and that Jesus and Osiris are in fact the same entity and same name. In order for us to get to the heart of this matter, we have to analyze the root consonants in both the names Osiris, which is given in ancient Egyptian as wasir, which is spelled W-S-R, or sometimes I-S-R or J-S-R, which is really a Y sound, and Jesus, which is pronounced Yeshua or Yahashua. I argue in the book that Jesus and Osiris are built on the same consonant root system, which is given as SR. This root system is the source for many epithets shared by both Osir and Yeshua. They are both mythological characters that are the embodiment of a linguistic domain or themes that are shared by the SR root in the Egyptian and Hebrew languages. This slide demonstrates how the word Jesus would look written in hieroglyphics. The R sound at the end of the Egyptian word wasir becomes a glottal stop at the end of Yeshua in the Hebrew language. A glottal stop is a weakened consonant. It is a sound that is stopped in the back of the glottis. So where there's an R, there will be a glottal stop that you can barely hear at the end of Yeshua. In this next series of slides, you can see a series of lexical items between the ancient Egyptian, Hebrew, Yoruba, and Shiluba languages that match in form and meaning. When comparing languages, linguists first line up terms with the same or similar consonant root structure. In this case, we are looking for an SR root or equivalent consonant root. It sounds mutate. We do this to see if the matches correspond on a regular basis to eliminate chance lookalikes, or what they call chance correspondences. Usually 5 matches are good enough to make a case, but we have done 12 to ensure that we are on the right footing. As a quick note, if the words are hard to read, you might want to put the video in full screen mode so you can see it better. Continuing. I won't go through all of the examples, as you can pause the video to examine them more thoroughly. What I want you to pay attention to is the correspondence between the words in all four of the languages examined. In this case of the Yoruba correspondences, you will notice that a few are not exact matches. This is because the Yoruba is a very old language, and a lot of their words suffer from consonant loss over time. But as you can see, where there is an S in the initial position in the Egyptian, for example, there is an S or Z in the initial position of the other languages. In the C2 or the second consonant position, there is consistently an L or R sound. Sometimes the L or the R sound morphs into an N sound, which you can see on a few of these as well. Look at the Hebrew terms and you will see that often the glottal stop, which is symbolized by an apostrophe, takes the place of either the S sound at the beginning or the L sound in other matches in the secondary consonant position. We will now demonstrate these facts in detail so we can compare the word save in Hebrew, which is pronounced shua, with the glottal stop at the end with the other languages, the other African languages, so we can be on solid linguistic grounds to do so. As we can see in these Yoruba examples, that the final R or L sound mutates also into a D sound in the first example, Sadi. It's not marked at the top, but all of these top examples are from the Yoruba language. The reason why this D sound mutates from the L is because of a rule in the Niger-Congo languages. Often when an L or R sound is followed by an I, the L or R becomes a D sound. As we can see in the ancient Egyptian example, that it also follows this pattern with the word shadi, which means to break, to rescue, to take away, to maintain, to secure, to recover, to cut out. Again, you can pause the video to examine the cognate terms for yourself. But these are all cognate terms in different related languages that would match the word shua in the actual Hebrew language. So to say shua in the Yoruba language, you would say one of these equivalent terms. We highlight these sorts of things to first lay a firm foundation for matching symbolic references between the Egyptian Osiris, known as washil, ashe, or mujilu in the Siluba language, and the Hebrew Messiah, Yeshua or Yahashua. As will be discovered in the book, The Passion of the Christ or Passion of Osiris, the Kongo Origins of the Jesus Myth, many of the epithets attributed to Jesus the Christ of the Hebrew tradition is also attributed to Osiris or Osir in the ancient Egyptian tradition. One will also discover that many of these attributes are also associated with the ancient Yoruba deities Eshu and Oshun. Now that we noted that the same word for Savior exists in the Hebrew, Egyptian, Yoruba, and Siluba languages, and is embedded in the names Osir or Yeshua, we can move forward and discuss why washil Osiris is considered a savior among the ancient Egyptians. The ancient Hebrews considered Jesus a savior because he is alleged to have sacrificed his life for the sins of mankind. Osiris is a savior, a Shidi, a Salu, a Sheila, a Sula, a Sheila, a Yeshua, because he represented the essential elements of life which continue to give us life as human beings. Asar is the Lord of life, as can be seen in this following text. Two of his major associations is with water and vegetation. Osiris, according to the Egyptian myths, is the first person to introduce farming to the ancient Egyptian people. Prior to farming, societies were pretty much nomadic. They were hunter-gatherers or pastoralists. By introducing farming, Osiris saved the ancient Egyptian people from a life of endless wandering. He gave them leisure time to explore the sciences and the artistic passions of the heart. This is one of the reasons why washil was highly revered as an ancestor among the ancient Egyptians. This notion of savior was adopted by the Hebrews, who were very familiar with the Osiris myth and just transferred many of the attributes of their version of washil, which they named Yeshua. Now, you will notice in the text that Yeshua is also known as the Lord of Life and the Lord of Waters. And we don't have enough time to really go through all the details, but when you sift through the book, I provide the necessary evidence to demonstrate these same correspondences, not only linguistically but conceptually, and I provide the context for understanding exactly, how these two things correlate, using the Yoruba system E5 as a backup system for the ancient Egyptian to demonstrate that this concept, these terms, and these associations are widespread across the African continent, including Central Africa, where the Siluba language is spoken to this day. The book goes, of course, into much more detail than we can cover here. As stated earlier, you can go to www.asarimhotep.com to find out more. The next video, part 2, we're going to talk about what is a Messiah and the Kongo origins of what a Messiah is and how it was institutionalized in Africa, but became a unique phenomenon amongst the Hebrews. So I thank you for enjoying this video, so stay tuned for part 2.